As the scene opens, we are immediately drawn into the Marshal's seasickness, and this is foreshadowing the end of this film and so many questions to come. But I want you to pay attention to the fact that he only focuses on the water. Now, the water isn't usually something you think about with seasickness. It's more of the swaying motion. So pay attention to that. When he gets off the boat, he realizes that the tensions seem abnormally high. The guards have their eyes locked on to the Marshal as they stand with their weapons ready. This scene is very confusing because the partner of a field marshal should be able to properly handle his weapon. Instead, he fumbles it while giving it over to the warden. When the Marshal enters the scene, it is downright uncomfortable. It could be that these patients are just welcoming a new face, but it appears as if they are greeting him. But the way in which they greet him appears that they have met before. It is here where we get the first glimpse into the Marshal's psyche. It is an image that needs no explanation and tells us more than words ever could about the horrors this character has seen. The behavior of these guards does not add up to what we know about this situation. From what we know, these guards should be avidly looking for this prisoner. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about just this beautiful shot. The background allows you to focus on only these characters, as I believe this angle is meant to show and demonstrate that all of these characters are more important than we yet realize. Notice how when the Marshal says,
"Tell me the truth,"
the worker's facial expression indicates that he knows something, as if he does not know which truth to tell. Notice him glance at the doctor, seemingly for approval. And it is here where the cracks begin to form, as doctors bring up,
"You have outstanding defense mechanisms."
The scene gives you a visual with his sensitivity to anger. This is extremely unprofessional of a field marshal and an overreaction that seems very out of character. We have seen a dream sequence prior, but this is a look inside his mind. It seems to be on fire, with everything burning around him. He tries to hold on, but this woman that he cares so much for turns to ashes in his hands. However, when he wakes up, he notices water dripping on him from the ceiling. Was it all just a weird dream because of it? Now we see a representation of the general perspective in cinema of someone who is insane. He feels nothing.
"She liked to be naked, to suck cock. When I cut her, she screamed.
And justifies it because...
But she scared me."
We see his hatred for other murderers, but he does not view himself in that same way. But when he mentions drowning kids, the Marshal squints. Clearly there's some type of reaction. Then the field marshal does something with his pencil, something so irritating but so mild that it sets this prisoner off, breaking their focus on his self-made delusion. And once his attention is broken from that, his anger is unleashed. Stop! Now we see the opposite.
"You seem quite normal. I mean, in comparison to the other patients."
But the justification still remains, as she does not feel guilty because...
Axing him isn't the least understandable thing you could do.
Notice how she is holding an invisible glass. Is this a continuity error? Or an unreliable narrator? Now we get a more in-depth look at what might cause his violent tendencies. After seeing something this horrific, all it takes is one shot to ring for the execution of all of these prisoners. And it is war, but it is still murder. And the camera is not quick to look away. It takes its time and lets the gravity of this situation sink in. It appears that once a character in this film has their justification questioned, that they are overcome with outfits of rage. Well, this is just a terrifying shot. Finally, the man he's been chasing this entire time appears. It is everything he hates. It is everything he despises. But he offers him a drink. But now it is his partner holding the drink. And then a woman screams. But now he is all alone. A woman in blood suddenly appears. Seeing this causes him to pick up dead children. At this point, it is safe to say that the Marshal's grip on reality is completely slipping. It is after this scene that everything is put into question. Even the death of the Marshal's partner, who is seen but no body ever found. However, halfway through this movie, it all comes together. The food, the smokes, the pills. This is the cause of his walking nightmares. We find out that the doctors are trying to convince him that he is insane so that they can lobotomize him.
Marshall, you have no friends.
In this scene, the warden explains that,
We've known each other for centuries.
and that,
The constraints of society were lifted, and I was all that stood between you and a meal. You would crack my skull with a rock and eat my meaty parts.
the doctor then finally says,
You don't have a partner, Marshall. You came here alone.
and he knows for a fact that he came with a partner. They are obviously trying to manipulate this man and convince him that he himself is insane. And so it begins. He's gonna fight for his life before they commit him. He fights his way to the lighthouse to get to the bottom of this situation. But the response he gets is,
Why are you all wet, baby?
the doctor explains that he is in fact always been a patient. This all seems exactly what they would do to convince a sane person of insanity. As his partner explains,
I've been your primary psychiatrist for the last 2 years. I'm Lester Sheehan.
with that, his justification for his actions is questioned, causing him to try and kill both of these men. But the gun is not real. His reality crumbles along with it. To stop this, the doc reveals that
She purposely set your city apartment on fire. You
now the doctor's comment makes sense.
Baby, why are you all wet?
The shot is lingering, allowing us to feel so very far away from the marshal and so very close to this tragedy, as he claws his way towards his children, but he is unable to save them. And you can see his pain through this gut-wrenching performance. He is now completely seen surrounded by water, holding on to what he loved. Notice how small he is in this frame, showing how his mind does not want him focusing on this moment. And with that, he finally loses control and can't help but proceed to shoot his wife. Once he wakes up, he accepts that
I killed my wife. She murdered our children. Because I can't take knowing that Dolores killed our children.
the doctor checks in on him the next day, but the former marshal's defense mechanism kicks back in.
Gotta get off this rock, Chuck. Get back to the mainland, whatever the hell's going on here. It's bad.
This means that he will have to be lobotomized. But in the end, we see that his defense mechanism does not have an entirely full grasp on him, as he makes the statement,
Which would be worse? To live as a monster? Or to die as a good man?
Are you listening? Damn.